All right. Good morning. How are you all? Tired? Tired? Good. All right. Well, it's good to see you all again. So this morning, we're going to talk about a topic that oftentimes gets ignored, oftentimes gets kind of looked over. And in class, we don't talk about it very often, do we? Our mental health. How do we create a career for ourselves in this job for longer than 5-10 years, right? We just don't talk about it. And unfortunately, it's becoming quite the epidemic for us in EMS, police, fire, all of that whole career that we encompass. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that. And it's going to be kind of a deep conversation. It's going to kind of be a dark conversation, but I promise at the end we'll be positive. So you guys walk out of here like with a smile on your face, I promise. All right. So, but I need you to bear with me as we go through this. And I really need you to just take it seriously and really think about yourself. Think about the people that you work with. Think about your family, your partners, your work family, all of that as we go through this. And I'm going to tell you why. And why this is such a personal thing for me and why I present this. This was actually one of my very first topics when I started speaking a while ago. And this is what kind of got me out here and putting myself out here, because I didn't want what happened to me to happen to you guys. So that's kind of why I'm here. So let's talk about this a little bit. What we're going to talk about today, awareness and description of what a career in EMS really is. Now, if you were like me, did you go into this career totally understanding what it was, or did you think it was going to be cool and lights and sirens and things like that, like what we see on TV, right? It can be a little bit misleading if you don't know anything about it. We're going to talk about what it really is. We're going to talk about the current state of mind of EMS providers, what the outside world looks at us as, and how we should behave and how we should think. And verse is what the future state of mind should be, what we're allowed to be like, what we're allowed to think, what we're allowed to do to stay strong in this career and last for a while, okay? Then we're going to talk about some warning signs, stuff that I want you guys to be able to start recognizing in yourself, in your partner, in your family. This doesn't just include us at work or our work family, but it also includes everybody we come in contact with, our friends and our family. And then we're going to look at some shocking numbers, and then we're going to talk about how do we get help? How do we make ourselves stronger for the long run, right? I just don't want to give you numbers on, okay, I'm at this point, I need help, here's who to call. But I want to give you a game plan on how to keep yourself strong as we go through this career, all right? Sound good? All right. So what I want you guys to do, I want you to close your eyes for me. I know, dangerous, right, in the morning on a Sunday morning, right? Keep your eyes closed. I'm going to go through several sounds, and as you listen to them with your eyes closed, I want you to feel in your soul what these noises do to you, how they make you react, all right? All right. How many of you want to just get up and go? Right? All right. How many of you, when you heard those sounds, whether it be the fire truck, the fire engine, the ambulance, the pager going off, you were like, huh, right? Your heart rate kind of actually increased a little bit. You're like, yeah, let's go. All right. How many times when we were early on in this career, we were baby EMTs, did those pagers go off and you about peed your pants? And you're like, let's go, right? Let's go. Let's go do something. Let's go have some fun. Let's go save somebody. Let's go do what we do, right? Let's go be the hero. Let's do what we trained for. Now, how many of us in here, and you don't need to raise your hands, when you hear that siren again or that pager go off, there's a little bit of us that goes, hey, right? Like, I don't, no, no, I don't want to go. I actually fell asleep for a second. I don't want to go. Or you get to that point where you're like, I really don't want to go. You get that anxiety. You get that little bit of panic. Like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Right? We sometimes get to that point when we've been in this for a long time and we've had some really, 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 really bad shit. Right? You get to that point, and that's okay. That's a natural thing. But we're going to learn how to keep ourselves stronger so that when those tones go off, when that pager goes off, we don't get that moment of panic or that anxiety where we get to that point where we need to get out of this career because we can't do it anymore. All right. So for some of us, those noises are still an amazing, good thing. We want to go. We want to go do our job. For some of us who've been in it for a long time, we start getting that, ugh, right? So this is why I'm here. I had 3 partners in my career that killed themselves or came close to it. All right, people that I worked with, people that were my friends. I worked for a private ambulance company in Indiana. I lived in Wisconsin for 10 years, worked for a fire department. I've moved down to Indiana where my family was, and I started working for a private ambulance company. My very first partner was Daryl. Daryl was 27 years old. Now, I worked 13-hour shifts 3 days in a row. Now, those of you that have ever done private ambulance services, you sit in that ambulance with your partner and you don't go anywhere. You don't have a base. You don't have a building, right? You sit in parking lots and you stage all over the world. So whether you like that partner or not, you're stuck with them in a very small space in the front of your ambulance. So my partner was Daryl. Daryl and I got along really, really well. He was in paramedic school. He was my EMT partner. Obviously, we got to know each other very well. He had just gotten engaged. He had a Great Dane puppy. He loved his 4-wheeling and his big yellow, ugly mustard yellow truck, but he loved it, right? I was with him through this whole process of getting engaged. They bought a house. They were remodeling it. They got a new puppy, all that stuff, right? Because I spent 3 days in a row with him, right? As I was working with him, I started not really noticing until later, but he was having issues with his girlfriend, fiance. There was a lot of arguing going on. And we'll talk about it later, some of the stuff that I missed that I should have caught on to, but I didn't know anything. Nobody taught me anything. Nobody taught me this stuff, right? I ended up working, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Gary, Indiana. So I actually worked there for a couple years of my career. Very terrifying, scary place. I've been shot at 5 times in Gary. Thankfully, they have bad aim, or I wouldn't be here. So he was my partner in Gary, Indiana. The other problem though with Gary, besides being a very horrible, violent place, is there's a lot of steel mills, and it's very polluted. So now you're sitting in an ambulance, breathing in all those fumes, and then we got the pollution of the air. So I ended up getting this massive respiratory infection that lasted 3 months. I was off work one day, and I'd gone through the whole gamut of x-rays and antibiotics and stuff, and I called off, and I'm like, I can't do it today. Like, I cannot cough my way through 13 hours. I called Daryl, and I said, hey, I'm going to be off tomorrow. He's like, okay. He calls me back the next day and goes, I missed my partner. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm sick. You don't want to hear me coughing for another 13 hours. And he's like, that's okay. He goes, but I want to make sure you didn't cancel, you didn't call off because of me. And I said, what? You know, he's like, I'm sorry if I've like pushed you to the edge or pushed you to the limit of stuff and issues. And no, dude, it's fine. I'm literally just sick, right? I will see you tomorrow. I go to bed. Now, I don't know if you guys are like me, but when I go to bed, I turn my phone off. Like if I'm not working, my phone's on silence. So when I wake up, then I can see it, but I try to sleep when I can, right? So I wake up in the morning, I turn my phone on, it's my day off, and I can't, my phone just blasts with stuff. And I open it up and I have text messages, I have voicemails, and I look at them and I call one of my friends and I'm like, hey, what's going on? My friend tells me, he goes, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah. And he goes, Daryl's not your partner anymore. And I'm like, what? He's like, he's not your partner anymore. I said, well, today he's not, right? I'm not working. He goes, Daryl shot himself last night. I'm like, no, because I just talked to him last night to tell him I wasn't coming to work. And then he apologized that, you know, why I called off and it was him. And I said, I just talked to him. He goes, he shot himself last night. Our crew responded to his house. And I said, what in the world happened, right? He had gotten off of work. He went to the bar. His fiance was supposed to work nights. She went to work. She came home early. He came home from the bar with a hickey on his neck, right? Some poor decisions along the way that evening. It happens. They got into a great big argument. She said to him, I want you out and I want you out now. He's like, you want me gone? And this is how she described it. He said, all right, you want me gone? I'll be gone. He walks to his room, comes back with a gun, shoots himself in the head, standing right in front of her. Now, my company never once called to tell me that my partner killed himself that night. I find out coming to work the next day, I just have someone random on my ambulance. That's how awesome it can be, right? So I get a new partner. That's Daryl. Great guy, fun guy. He had my back all the time. I could trust him with my life where we were working. There's his obituary. Puts it really real, right? Actually seeing it. I get a new partner. Her name's Dana. She's in the same paramedic class as Daryl. Now, I was known as the Black Cloud. I just got a lot of crazy calls. She actually requested to work with me because she's like, hey, I hear you get a lot of crazy calls. I hear you on the radio. I want to learn. I want to learn as I'm going through paramedic school. I said, that's fine. I'm looking forward to having another girl to work with, right? Hang out with. Over the course of a few months, we became really good friends. We hung out after work. We hung out, obviously, during work. She was dating a sheriff's deputy. They lived together. She had 4 dogs. She couldn't have kids. In her background, she did make some poor choices in the past. She had been into drugs and things like that before she got into EMS. She kind of straightened things around. She was doing well. A few months into working with her, I get a phone call from my work, and they're like, hey, we want to let you know why they decided this time to let me know. They said, we want to let you know that Dana's in the hospital. She overdosed last night on a bunch of depressive meds, drank a ton of alcohol, then called us. She realized she had made a mistake. We got to her. She's in the hospital. She's on a vent and all this stuff. We're hoping she pulls through. She pulled through. I visited her all the time in the hospital. She came back to work very hesitantly. She was embarrassed to come back. She didn't want to come back. She's like, I don't want people to make fun of me and stuff and think I'm an idiot and all this stuff. And I'm like, come back to work. Get back in the swing of it, right? Work with me. We're good. It's fine. She comes back to work. All right. She's on some medications she ended up getting AFib from this whole issue. So she's on cardiac meds and a whole bunch of other things. I end up leaving that position and I go to another job where I work now. And we still kept in touch. She called me on a Friday and said, hey, are we still on for lunch on Monday? I said, yeah, I haven't seen you for a couple weeks. Let's go. I'm looking forward to it. And she said, awesome. Meanwhile, I'm shopping at Walmart. Any of you ever have conversations while you're shopping at Walmart? You're like paying attention, but you're not because you're busy, right? So I'm doing my thing. She's talking to me. And in the middle of it, she says, thank you so much for being my friend. I'm like, you're welcome, right? Kind of weird, but you're welcome. She's like, no, thank you. You were the only one that came to visit me in the hospital. You were there for me all the time. You let me come back to work. You didn't treat me differently, right? You let me get back in there. You gave me the confidence to do it again. I said, you're welcome. That's what friends do. That's what we do. She said, well, I just wanted to call and thank you. Thank you for being there. I'm like, you're welcome. I'll see you on Monday, right? Didn't think anything of it. Didn't think about some of the stuff that had happened prior to that with working with her. I go to bed. I wake up. Do you see a pattern? I pick up my phone. I look at it. I have a bunch of text messages again, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I call my friend who left a message, who I worked with where I work now, and she knew her. She was in her paramedic class. She said, are you sitting down? I said, no, don't even open your mouth. She goes, Dana killed herself last night. I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, I just talked to her last night. She said, she ended up calling all of the EMS bases in the area where we had worked, trying to figure out who was working where. Trying to figure out what area was somewhere where nobody knew her. She ended up going to a parking lot in the middle of the night, overdosing on her cardiac meds. By herself, in a car, in the dark, overdosing because she thought that was the best way to end what was going on in her head, that was her only option. I was there. I was there for her. All she had to do was reach out. All she had to do was ask for help. But she was at that moment where it was too much. She couldn't do it. That's Dana. Our friends, our family, our coworkers should never get to that point. We should never get to that point where we think the best way to stop this pain is to be alone in a car and overdose. I love Dana. She was not only my coworker, but she was a good friend of mine, and I couldn't help her, right? I've carried that for a very long time. How did I not see that? How did I know what was going on? What does that look like? A mugshot, right? So where I work currently, my supervisor is this guy, was this guy. His name's Tron, with a very weird last name, Tron Gorbano-Senko. Tron was our supervisor where I work. Tron had a lot going on. Near the end, I guess you can say, he had family problems. He was going through a divorce. His kids hated him. He was drinking a lot, all this stuff, again, that we didn't know. We didn't pay attention to. He would go to the bar after work in the morning to get through his day, right? He lost his car. It got repossessed, a lot of stuff going on. He even said to some of us at work, I'm having a lot of issues, but our health insurance does not pay for counseling, does not cover that. I can't afford it, right? We know what paramedic EMT pay is. We all work a billion jobs. I can't afford it. I can't do it. One evening he goes to a bar. He gets drunk. He leaves the bar. He drives out of the parking lot, hits a mailbox. He gets pulled over by the police. The police knew all of us because we worked in that town. They said, hey, man, you all right? He goes, yeah, I just got to get home right down the street. They let him go. All right, dude, just get home. He gets on the highway. He's driving down the highway. He gets to the point, and this is what he said. He said, I got to the point where I didn't know any other way out. I didn't know how to get through anything else. I didn't know how to fix my family. I didn't know how to fix everything that was going on. So I wanted to end it. So instead of trying to find a tree or a pole that drunks are very good at hitting, right? He decides to take on the next car coming at him. He hits that car head on. He kills the two people in that car. He doesn't kill himself. The two people in that car were owners of a pizza place we frequented all the time. He got to the point where he needed to end it. He wanted to end it. He couldn't do it. We didn't have the resources to help him. And instead of killing himself, he takes out a family. And now he's in jail. He's divorced. His kids want nothing to do with him. He's obviously lost his career, right? This can't happen. What did I miss? What didn't I see? What could I have done to prevent this, right? What could we have done as a whole in the EMS world? And that's why I'm here. Because I don't want you guys to do this. I don't want you guys to wake up to that phone getting filled with messages of people that you love, that you work with. So let's talk about it. What is the current description of EMS and what it's all about, right? When we got into it, at least for me, I thought it was all of this, right? You get to do all that. You get to drive fast. You get to go save lives. You get to be a hero. How many people love watching those emergency shows? I don't. I hate it, right? It's not that. We're not models. I mean, we might think we are. We're not these models walking around fire stations, having all sorts of drama, right? All the calls they go on, you'd never see in your lifetime, right? It's not what we do. What do we do? There's 5 things that are unique to EMS for us as opposed to everybody else in this world, and these are it. Our level of uncertainty is high, right? Do you go to work knowing what you're going to get? Generally, no. If you're a transfer service, you might, right? But again, you don't know what you're getting called to do. We don't go to work and know we're going to have this call, that call, and everything else, right? So we go to work with a little bit of that anticipation, wondering what's going to happen. Anytime those tones go off that we listened to earlier, our body goes through a physiological response automatically. We don't make it do that. It just does it, right? We get that increased blood sugar because our body's going, let's go. It's preparing for that fight. It's preparing for to go on that call. We get an adrenaline release. We get an increased blood pressure. We get an increased heart rate. That just happens. And I don't care how long you've been in this career. It's just an automatic response that your body does. Kind of like that fight or flight thing, right? It kicks in. Let's go fight. Let's go do this. The problem is sometimes when you go on a big call, you come back and you go on another one. How are we able to kind of come down from that one, right? So sometimes where I work, I do 24-hour shifts, and on average, I run 20 calls in 24 hours. We're busy, busy. And I'm the third ambulance at our base, so that's every third call, and I'm still doing 20 calls in 24 hours at our one base, right? Sometimes, a lot of times, I don't have a chance to get back to the base and kind of go, whew, that was a crazy call. We're going on the next one right away. So your body tends to get a little bit worn out, right? And then we don't sleep very well and things like that. We have that potential for interpersonal tension. We live with our coworkers, do we not? We spend a lot of time with them. Often we spend more time with them than we do our family, right? Exposure to human tragedy is frequent. Do we see dead people? Do we see horrible things? We can, right? Do we see bad calls? Do we see kids hurt, kids killed, things like that? We do. And then the underlying fear factor. I don't know about you guys, but I worked really, really hard for my license, right? I worked really hard to do this job. Who here wants to lose their license on a call? Great. I'm glad to see nobody, right? We still have that little bit of fear factor of, I hope I can do my job. I hope I can do it right. This is a sue happy world, is it not? How many times do you go on a call now and like people are videoing you when you walk in? A lot. When I was on the helicopter, there were, I don't know how many YouTube videos we were on, Facebook, right? On calls. So the potential is there. Let's talk about our state of mind, right? Why this is all building up and why we have to fix this. Generally, people think you're in this career, you are tough, right? You're badass. You're a robot. You can go do this job. You can deal with the bad stuff and you just keep on going. You keep motoring through it, right? It's what we do. We put on that front when we go on a call. We look like we know what we're doing, which we do, but sometimes it's hard. You're tired. You've seen some good, bad stuff that day, but we keep going. We often think we're not able to think about the last call because we have to move on to the next one, all right? How many times have you been told, and I've heard it a few times, when someone asks me how my day is or my shift was, I'll be like, boy, it was hard, right? I had some bad calls. It was tough. I'm glad to be home for a minute. And then I'll hear why are you complaining? You chose this job. You chose to go out there. You chose to do this. If you don't like it, go away. If you don't like it, get out of it, right? So sometimes we just have to, okay, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to talk about it, right? I'm not going to deal with it. I don't want to hear that. And then we never look weak, right? That's a lot of times of how we're perceived in this world. This is a good cartoon that kind of shows that. The things you see and do, but you become robotic and it's hurting our marriage. And then it says like danger, danger, danger. We're very good at the detachment thing. Are we not? Right? And oftentimes, and I get called on the carpet a lot. We're at my house. I have 11 nieces and nephews. I got 2 sisters. I got my parents, my husband. To us, I try to explain them to them. If you stub your toe, is that an emergency to me? If my husband stubs his toe, it's the end of the world, right? But I'm going to be like, just get up, right? It's fine. Our empathy and our sympathy is a little bit different than the normal Joe Blow, right? Because of what we see. To me, if you're not bleeding and you're breathing, you're fine, right? Until you're bleeding and not breathing, then I'll get concerned, right? We have that. That's how we kind of cope. That's how we get through life. What do we need to have as a future state of mind? How can we keep ourselves in this job, keep our coworkers in this job? We can. We can create an environment, create a culture where it's okay to be human in our job. Who here was born a human? All of us, right? I came out 2.5 months early, 4 pounds little. I came out fighting. I was born a human. I went into the EMS career 20 years ago, a human being, right? We were all born and created with emotions. We were created with the ability to have sorrow, to feel bad, right? To be happy, to be all of that. Why should we have to turn it off and pretend it's not there? To keep our jobs, to not look weak, not to complain. How easy is it to go to your supervisor and say, I can't do this, and be afraid of, well, then you should just leave this career, right? If you can't do it, go home. We shouldn't have that. We should have the ability to be able to be not okay and have that be okay. Does that make sense? It's okay to come out of a really, really bad call and go, I need a second, right? That was nuts. That was crazy. I didn't want to see that, but I did. I just need a few moments to get through that, right? It should be okay to be that way. It should be accepted to be able to process it. And the big thing at the bottom, it takes a strong person to ask for help. Whether that be, I just need to talk to someone, or whether that be, I just need to not be on the next call for just a call. Just give me a time to breathe. It should be okay to ask for help. You should be considered strong, not weak, to say, hey, I need some help. And this is what's getting us in trouble. It's because we don't have this in our career, right? We don't. We say we do. We're trying. We're not quite there, I don't think. A good example I had was my partner and I were on a call. We called it a 41. So we were at our base. Our other base went out. All their ambulances were gone. So we had to go cover their area. We're on our way down there. We're literally talking about what we're going to have for lunch, right? We're calling and we get dispatched. My base gets dispatched for a car versus a tree. I look at the map book. Yes, back in we had map books. I'm reading the like 2-point font, trying to figure out where this road's at in the middle of the county. And I said, hey, we're literally right here. Like we're a half a mile from this road. So I called dispatch and said, hey, medic 3 will be en route to this call. Dispatch medic 4 to go cover our 41 and we'll be there. We pull up literally maybe a minute later, if that. We get there and it's this country road. I see tire marks on this road. I see dirt marks of tire marks up this hill. And then this car was going this way, went up this lady's front yard, down her driveway, came back around and hit a tree. And I call them those ditch trees. We have lots of ditches by us. They're these big old monster trees that just in the middle of the ditches. I don't even know what they are, but they're huge, right? We pull up. She hit that car doing 100 miles an hour. And that was after doing this. It's still smoking. The lady at the house said, I was just turning in my driveway and this car came blasting from behind me and came flying around me. She goes, I had no idea that car was even there. And we're out in the middle of nowhere, right? We go up there. There's this car that's in the middle of this tree, or the tree's in the middle of the car. My elbow touched the passenger window. My fingers touched the driver window. In the middle of that was a 10-year-old boy and his mom. The mom was a good 300 pounds. The kid was a good 120, 140, like big 10-year-old. Both of them were dead, like newly dead. We just got there, right? And they're smashed in this car. I then see a car seat in the woods, like 40 feet away, like had gotten thrown out the car. Now I'm like, oh God, right? There's no kid in the car seat. Where in the world is this kid, right? Because you're like, I don't have proof that there wasn't a kid. I have proof that there might have been one. So we're looking, can't find the kid, Police come. It takes us 3 hours to cut them out of the car, right? Come to find out she had left her husband at the trailer park down the road, ex-husband, had gotten into a huge, massive argument, was driving back mad and angry, then got herself into trouble driving too fast, tried to miss that car, hit the tree, killed her and her son. The baby in the car seat was at the ex-husband. Thank God, right? Bad call. Horrible thing to see right off the get-go, right? I was thinking lunch, and now I'm looking at 2 dead people, one being a kid. Literally a minute later. I bring this up because for the first time in my entire career, my supervisor stopped at the ER after like our 3rd or 4th call after that. And he goes, hey, I need to talk to you guys. And I thought, what did I do wrong, right? You never have a supervisor that comes up to you and want to talk to you and it's good. He goes, are you guys okay? And I said, what? He's like, are you guys okay? And I'm like, how do I answer that, right? Because immediately you're like, I don't want to act weak. I don't want to act like I can't do this job. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, are you? Because I was there. I'm not okay. And I wasn't on that call. I wasn't the first people there. And I'm like, and I told him, I go, I'm not sure what to say. Like, I need a minute or I'm good. He's like, I'm taking you out of the rotation for the next 2 calls. I just need you guys to breathe. I just need you to go back. I need you to pop your feet up on the table, on the couch, do what you got to do. That is what you're doing. And I'm like, okay. That was the first time I had somebody actually care how we were, right? At that moment, it was okay to not be okay. And that meant the world to us. All right, so what do we look for? What do we look for in ourselves? What do we look for in our coworkers? What do we look for in our family, our friends? Everybody that we love. Do we have the potential to be this? We do. Are we this? I don't know. I can't answer that for you guys. I can't answer that personally for you. We have the potential to be here. I don't want any of you to be that grenade, right? I don't want you guys to be that grenade because we can't talk to people. We can't get the help we need. We all know what PTSD is, right? I'm not going to get into a great big thing of it, but we know what it is. The big thing I want you to take away from this is PTSD can happen to anybody at any moment, at any time. All it takes is the tones going off. Okay? It can be a buildup of a lot of stuff and then a minor call, and all of a sudden those tones go off and you're like, I can't do this job anymore. You get panicky, you get anxious. It can happen. Okay? Other things to look for. Mental and emotional signs and symptoms. And I'm going to tell you this. Dana and Daryl and Tron, every single one of them, looking back, we found the signs. We saw the signs. We recognized them. But I didn't know that that stuff added up to what led them to where they were, right? I didn't know that. I wasn't educated. No one told me about it. Feeling increasingly drained or fatigued, lack of ambition, increased irritability, anxiety attacks, loss of appetite, or weight gain. Doesn't matter however you cope, right? Some of us eat a lot, some of us don't eat. Feeling insecure, inability to concentrate. Now, I'm not saying that if you have some of these, you're going to end up where Dana and Daryl did, right? We're all human. We all have these at some point. We all feel this. The problem is when it starts adding up and it becomes a pattern, right? Not a coincidence, not an isolated event, but a pattern. Depression. Now, this is what I found very, very intriguing about depression. My grandpa, my mom, my uncle all have clinical depression. Well, my grandpa did. He's dead now, but he did. My mom and my uncle. My grandma, all she ever said was, it's just in your head. Wake up with a smile and you'll be fine. We all know people that have depression. It could be us, right? It's a very treatable thing. We can work through this. But what I found interesting about people with depression, and I know a lot of people in our career, coworkers of mine that have depression, they're on meds for it, right? It's okay. It's okay to be that way. It's okay to be on the meds. But you also need to take a little bit higher interest in protecting yourself, protecting your brain, being healthy, right? Depression is a state of mental disorder in which a person's mood is severely impaired. Now listen to this, by the feeling of loss, sadness, hopelessness, and failure. Have you ever experienced any of that on a call? Right? Now you add into that, we've had that bad call, now you add into that, I have this clinical diagnosis that makes it a little bit more difficult to get through that, okay? 70 to 90% of suicidal victims had some sort of mental disorder when they were alive. Of those, 60 to 7 were suffering from depression. That's a huge number, right? Now here's another interesting thing. When you have depression, not according to my grandma where it's in your head, you just wake up, smile, and you'll be fine. Depression actually changes your brain. It changes things in your head that make you feel this way, all right? Your frontal cortex is what controls your cognitive and emotional regulation. That's what our brain does, right? It does a good job at it until things get a little off balance. And when they do, then we have issues. When you have deficiencies in your neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine, things start happening. Calls become a little more difficult. Being able to process that cognitive and emotional regulation can become a little more difficult, all right? Norepinephrine modulates your cognition. Serotonin modulates your mood. When you have a decrease of dopamine, that may induce emotional and cognitive problems. Do you see how this kind of adds up, right? Now, look at this picture. Who here, right, so I'm 45, so I'm like a late 70s, 80s kid. Who here ever watched those commercials with, here's your brain, a fry pan, and then here's your brain on drugs, And like the fried, and then the drugs, the eggs are fried. My mom, for whatever reason, made me watch that all the time. I don't know if I like worried her. Andrea, watch this commercial, okay? Right? This is your brain. This is your brain on depression. Look at the difference. Healthy, red, orange, right? Things are moving, things are going. Neurotransmitters are doing what they're supposed to. Look at the brain with chronic depression. What's missing? A lot, right? It's not just in your head. It is, but it's not a mental thing just in your head. Other things to look for: increased alcohol use. We don't drink in this career, right? None of us drank last night. We didn't do all that. We are known in this career for drinking, right? Just go to conferences. It's fine. I like to drink. I love my beer. I'm a beer, brat, steak hunting girl. That's me. I'm country. I have a beer in my hand about every night. I like it. The problem comes when you use it to get through your day, when you use it as a crutch to get through your day. When you go to the bar in the morning after work to be able to get going like Tron did, that's when it becomes a problem, all right? Other things to look for: headaches, back pain, chest pain, a lot of physical stuff because our body is just getting tired. It's breaking down. We can't sleep, right? We feel sick. We're worried. We're anxious, things like that. That can happen. It can build up. Dana was always on time. She was always there 20 minutes before me. And where I worked in our ambulance, you'd come to work and there'd be like 100 ambulances in the parking lot. You had to go find yours. You had to go put all your equipment in it. She was always there before me, always had the ambulance ready to go. I was spoiled. All of a sudden, she started being late to work. I'd get to work and she wasn't there, or she'd call off, or things like that. Right? Daryl, back in the mental behavior stuff, he was becoming more irritable on calls. We did a lot of dialysis runs. They can be very high maintenance patients. You get them into the home and they need this and they need that, and we need the blanket this way, and I need my head propped up this way, and I need my remote, and I need my water, and I need, like, takes a lot of patience. He was starting to lose it on these patients. I'd be like, have to pull him out, going, okay, just go back. I'll finish, right? Different little things like that. He'd call off of work. He'd miss work. All the arguing with his fiance and things like that. Personality changes for him. This is what I noticed as well with Daryl. With Tron, we noticed this a lot looking back. All right. Another thing is increased startle response to noises, alarms, and other things. Short fuse problems. Do you notice your partner, yourself, your family all of a sudden having that short fuse? Like, dude, you were good before. What's wrong? Right? All of a sudden they got that short fuse. They get irritated quicker than normal. Not a red flag until it starts becoming a pattern, right? Until it starts becoming an issue and you start noticing it more. You get your partner who's always dead on perfect in the morning, right? Always good with the protocols. He's one of those people who are like, man, I wish I had your brain, right? Photographic memory, you can list all the meds, you can do every protocol by heart. And then suddenly they're doubting, suddenly they're asking you questions, suddenly they're saying, hey, is there anything you think we should do with this patient? That should be a red flag. Because now we're starting to doubt ourselves, we're having a little bit of anxiety, that sort of thing. Other things, everything Tron had going on, right? When you start noticing this in yourself or your others, we really got to start taking a look at what's going on. How can we fix this before we get to that point, like Dana was in the parking lot, like Daryl was at home, right? Things to start thinking about. Now, we are amazing at this, right? We are so good in our job at being able to go on that call, stuff it in the back of your brain, move on to the next one, right? We're very good at filling our garbage can with a lot of stuff. We're very good at filling our filing cabinets with stuff and not processing it. We're very good at it. It's how we do it. It's how we go to the next call. The problem comes when that gets too full. When that gets too full, and now all of a sudden it just goes. That's when we end up in that state where we need help. We don't feel like we can go on anymore, where we need somebody to show us the direction. All right? That's when we get to that point. When I have Daryl and Dana calling me and telling me, thanks for being my friend, because they're looking at a way out, and that's terrifying, right? We need to learn how to turn these filing cabinets into organization. Learn how to process the one thing, put it back in the filing cabinet, but in a correct way, in a healthy way. Learn how to get rid of the junk in our brain in the garbage can so that's not always there, so we can keep processing things in a healthy manner. Does that make sense? All right. This is a really, really good screening tool. It's from the Firefighter Behavioral Health Organization, which is a really good organization. They have a lot of good resources. They have this self-assessment suicide screening thing on their website. You can go on there and you can do it yourself. Or you can do it for a family member or coworker and see how many they add up, right? There's a lot of questions on there. This is just 1 through 10. You guys can get on there and look at it. The big ones, right? Do you have feelings of hopelessness? Do you feel like killing yourself? Do you have a history of feeling depressed? Do you have a history of suicide in you or your family? Have you created plans to kill yourself? Have you recently attempted to? Those are big, dark questions. But for some of us, it's real, whether we've talked about it or kept it to ourselves. All right? Please do not hesitate to seek help if you have answered any of these questions yes. All right? Remember, you are strong to ask for help. How do we strengthen ourselves? How do we keep ourselves in this career? Right? We can do this. We've made it this far in our lifetime. We've made it this far in our career. How many critically ill, injured patients have we saved? Think about it in your career. You've saved a lot. You've done it. But how do we save ourselves? How do we put the effort into saving us? Right? It takes building resilience. Anyone ever heard of that word? Resilience has multiple factors in it. But if we do it right, we can build resilience to keep ourselves in this career for another 20, 30 years. And this is how. Resilience is how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your mind, body, and spirit, and how to heal through guaranteed trauma that will be experienced. Is that our career? Guaranteed trauma, right? It's what we went to school to learn to treat and to take care of. The time to build resilience is before the trauma, not after the fact. It's before we deal with the trauma, not after the fact. Okay? Think about this. We go to school and we learn all the protocols, right? We train, we prepare, we practice, we go through skills, we go through scenarios, we go do our ride time, we get on the ambulance. We are training ourselves to be able to treat that cardiac patient, that diabetic patient, that patient who's in labor, the one who's got holes in them with blood, who's been traumatized, been in accidents, right? Correct? We do that. Why are we not training ourselves and building our own protocol to get through our career, to get through our day? If we build it now and use it every day we go on a call, we can keep ourselves strong through that guaranteed trauma. Make sense? All right. How do we do that? Through hydration and nutrition. We're amazing healthy eaters, are we not? We have to try to do this. We have to take that initiative to eat healthy, to eat better, to stay hydrated. It is no joke. You will feel better. I promise you, right? Fast food will not get us through this career. Sleeping. Who here sleeps amazing? Not I, right? We all sleep horrible, but you have to make the effort to sleep better, to create a pattern or a habit. I'm a very habit pattern oriented person. I'm kind of type A like the rest of you. At 9:15, I take my shower. I know I'm old. At 9:30, I'm in bed, right? Then I watch my little Netflix, whatever the show is. My husband's always like, I don't know why you go to bed so early. I go, well, it's because I get away from you for a few minutes. But it's, yeah, right? But by 3, I'm finally falling asleep. But I try to make that habit. I try to make that pattern at least to try to attempt to it. Exercising. Exercising fights depression. It increases your endorphins. It increases the neurotransmitters that we talked about that can get screwed up. It helps you feel better. It gives you an outlet to some of that stress. Find a hobby. Find something to do when you get home from work. I garden. I love my garden. I love hunting. I love kayaking. I love hiking. My plants in my garden get a lot of conversations. I come home and I'll be working in my garden in the summer. I don't even take my uniform off. I just throw my garden boots on. I go out there and I talk to my tomato plants. And I'm like, boy, you should have seen what I had last night. But it helps me just get it out, right? And the tomato plants ain't going to cause a HIPAA issue, right? They're not going to complain. Find a hobby. Find a way to exercise regularly. The other things important to building resilience are these: moral strength, altruism, happiness, and faith. Moral strength. We need to have that moral strength to always commit to staying healthy, commit to building this resilience, commit to building our protocol to stay in this job for a very long time. All right, we have to commit to fixing what's broke. We do that at work, but do we do it for ourselves? Altruism. If you did not have this in you right now, you wouldn't be sitting here today. Altruism is your drive to help, to rescue, to protect, to stop the evil. It's that inner drive to thrive and be resilient in the worst scenarios. Isn't that what we do when we go to work? We want to do this, do we not? It's our job, and that's awesome. Keep that up. Keep that energy and that motivation to do that, but keep it strong. Happiness. Being optimistic, understanding that we cannot control everything. We can't always control the outcome of our patient. We want to. We're type A, right? We did A, B, C, D, this protocol, and they still died. We feel bad. We feel like we failed. But we have got to stay strong and know that we cannot control every single situation. Having faith, believing in something, whether that be your faith in God, your faith in something else, your faith in your family, your faith in your friends, having a support group that you can go to, not being alone. Knowing that you have a faith in somebody, something that you can say, hey, I need to talk, I just need to vent, right? Having that friend that you know you can do that for. Building resilience is our personal protocol to keep doing our job amazing, to keep saving the people that we go out to save, all right? Now let's look at some numbers. Suicide risk of fire at EMS. We are 25 times higher risk of committing suicide than the general population. Yikes, right? We need that number to get better. We need that number to get lower. And we do that by believing that it takes a strong person to ask for help, building that resilience, creating that protocol to stay healthy and strong. This graph came from the Firefighter Behavioral Health Organization again. The number at the bottom doesn't add up over there, but this is the number so far of this last summer that I got. 1,900 people so far have killed themselves, committed suicide in our career. And these are only the ones that are documented or told about. These are not the other ones that happen that doesn't get sent to them. That is a lot of people. That is 1,900 people that should have never got to that point. Dana and Daryl should have never got to that point, right? Here's a breakdown of some of the suicides, and this is, again, 60% of reporting, so these numbers could be higher. Look at 2015. There were 118 firefighters that committed suicide and 37 EMTs. That's 155 people in 2015 alone that killed themselves because they couldn't get the help. We're improving that number. In 2021, we're only at 52. That's a good thing. But again, that's 52 people that should still be working, that should still be alive. Here's another graph that I like, all right? The 236, this is 17 to 30-year-olds. 271 is 31 to 40. 274 is 41 to 50. What are we doing when we're killing off this group, 17 to 30? They're never going to make it, right? Who's going to take our spot? How are we going to keep this career going? Keep people in this career? Keep people responding on the ambulance and the fire engine if we're killing ourselves off already between 17 and 30 years old? We need to fix this number. This is why we need to have this increase of awareness on how to help ourselves, help our family, help our coworkers. I hope you're getting that, right? This is why I'm here. This is probably the most challenging presentation for me to go to every time I do it because it's so personal. It takes all my energy because I just want you guys to be aware of it. I want you never to have that phone call that I had 3 times, all right? We need to look out for our own, all right? And here's the sad part. How quick are we, when that pager goes off that we heard at the beginning, to jump from our family Christmas, from our anniversary parties, from our Christmases, our birthdays? We jump and we go to go save a complete, total stranger. We do it without thinking, right? It's what we do, it's in our blood. How fast are we to help ourselves or our coworker? How fast are we to look at our partner at work and say, dude, you're not right. What's going on? You're not the same person you were a couple months ago. What happened? Let's go for a walk. Let's go for coffee. Let's go to the gym, right? How quick are we to reach out to somebody? How quick are we to ask for help? I guarantee you it's not as quick as we are to jump up and go help a stranger. And that's sad. We should never be left alone to deal with this, all right? Dana and Daryl should never have been left alone. Dana should have never got to that point in her car in a parking lot in the middle of the night to overdose on her meds because that's the only thing she felt she could do. I was right there. I was right there at the end of that phone call. All she had to do was call. But she didn't because she didn't think anyone cared anymore. So how do we get the help, right? There's lots of ways. There's lots of ways to reach out for yourself, for your coworkers, for your family, okay? I have this all as a reference. I can send it to you guys. There's several different things. I really like this. 741 741. All you do is text it, and you will get an immediate response right away. How amazing is this new generation at talking? They're horrible. My EMT students, I'm like, put your freaking phone away and talk to your patient. We can't go up to our patient and start texting them, asking them what's wrong, right? But it is sometimes easier to just text your issues. I don't know how many arguments I've had with my husband via a phone text, right? As opposed to in person, right? It's easy to do it that way. But sometimes this is how we can get that help, all right? Just texting. Other things like this, again, there's a lot of resources out there. Safe Call Now is awesome. I know the guy that started this. The people that answer at Safe Call Now are firefighters, EMTs. They know what we've done. They know what we do. They get it, right? A lot of different references. If you are an EMS or fire provider, how can you help your people at work? If you're an officer, if you're a captain, if you're in charge, what are some ways to do it, all right? How do you provide the references to your people? How do you provide that culture to prevent it from being it's weak to ask for help, right? I was just in Homer, Alaska last week. I gave this presentation to a bunch of fire departments down there. Suicide is a huge thing down there. I get it, right? And I stress to them, you've got to create a culture where it's safe to ask for help, right? And that you don't feel like your job is being threatened. Stress it's important that they are not weak to want help. Another thing I always tell people, how fast is it for us to take our phone and take a picture, right? Take a selfie, send it. Put these references on the refrigerator, on a wall at work, so that someone can just go up there and go, all right, I got it. I might need it, or I want to pass it to someone else. Instead of going and asking your officer to haul the information out of a filing cabinet, right? Make it easily available, make it readily available. Anybody in emergency management? I always thought it'd be very intriguing to have an emergency management plan set up for your region, set up for your state in case there is a suicide in a local department or service. How are you going to respond to that? How are you going to support that department, that region, that city, that state? Something to think about for those in emergency management, right? How can we help them that way? How can we be there How can we even prevent the hazard, prevent it from happening? Do we have mental health programs out there readily available for our people? Do you have the ability to do that? Right? Something to think about as well. Go, play. Okay. Social media, we talked about a little bit. Social media is huge, right? It's fine to vent on social media. It's okay to do that. What if you see someone you know suddenly saying stuff they've not said before? Should we ignore it? Should we like it? And move on? Scroll to the next thing? I'm not a huge social media person. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, and that's about it. Right? I'm not real good at it. Right? I had someone in Iowa when I was giving this talk, he said, end quote, I was sitting on my recliner with a gun in my lap. I posted on Facebook, I was done. I was tired, and I couldn't go on. I was sitting with the gun in my lap. He said, I posted it. A friend of a friend of a friend, however that works, ended up seeing this post in California. The guy sends him a Facebook message and says, call me. He called him. The guy talked him out of it. He said, because that man was willing to reach out to a complete stranger, I'm here at your class today. Right? Social media can be a good thing. So what did I miss? Well, I kind of talked about it. I missed a lot of stuff that I didn't know. I wasn't educated in it, all right? But it's stuff that I don't want you guys to miss at all. I don't want you to be to that point. I was at another conference a while ago, and this guy came to me after the class, and this is a topic that it's not trauma, it's not medical. I don't know how you're all going to perceive it. I really don't. Some of you might not like it. Some of you might. I never know when I'm done speaking, right? I just hope and I pray. When I get up here, I pray. I'm a Christian, and I say, Lord, just please give this message to everybody. If they need it, let them hear it, right? And then I don't know how it goes. I had this guy come up to me at the end of my session. He hands me a note. And I said, what's this? And he goes, this was going to be my last conference. This is my suicide note. You can't make this up. He goes, I was going to come to this conference one last time and see all my friends. And I was going to go kill myself in the parking lot after everybody left. Because I wanted it to be where all my friends had been at a conference that was important in my life in the past. He goes, I was on my way out to my car. Mine was the last session of the day. He said, I stopped, I saw your thing, and I thought, what the hell, right? I'll just go listen and see. He said, everything you talked about hit home. Everything you talked about was me. Because what the one thing I learned was, I can get help. You had references, you had ways out. And that there's people that are willing to listen. He comes up to me, hands me his note, and he's like, I'm not doing it anymore. I want you to have my note. I didn't read it. It wasn't me. It wasn't for me to know. I took his note. I threw it in the garbage can, and I said, let's go get you some help. So we went to the conference people, and I said, this is what we got. And they said, all right, we got it from here. Right? You never know when you're going to help that person. You never know if even just a reaching out for, hey, let's go have some coffee is all they need, right? We are there for everybody in their worst time of their life. We need to not be afraid to be there for ourselves and for our coworkers in the worst time of their life and be willing to step up, all right? Now, to add a positive spin to this so you all don't walk out of here going, oh, yeah, right? And I got 2 more I got to do today, so I got to be positive. You are all in this for the right reasons. It's in our blood, right? If it wasn't in our blood, if we weren't just a little bit crazy, we wouldn't be here today taking time up in our weekend to learn, to interact, to network, right? We are the privileged ones that get to be in those person's homes to help them when they need it the most. And that is a privilege and an honor for us to be able to do that and to keep doing it, right? This is a huge responsibility to be able to go save someone's life. To even hold that 90-year-old woman's hand in the middle of the night when she's got abdominal pain and she calls you because you're the only ones that she can talk to because she has no kids anymore that care. That's a privilege. That's an honor. You get to save the day. You get to tell awesome stories, right? That's all good. Keep it up. I am proud of you all for being here. I'm proud of you for putting the time into it. I'm proud of you for all you do out there, right? I don't live in Oregon. I may never see you guys again, but I'm proud of each and one of you, okay? Go out there, make a difference, but also take the time to build the protocol, to build the resilience, to build the ability for yourself and your coworkers to be in this for the long haul. You can do it. You got this, and I'm proud of you all right? Thank you so much for being here, for listening to this. I hope you can take away a little something, all right? I hope you can pass it on and be open for help, be open to help somebody, all right? And the big thing I want you to take away from this, it takes a strong person to ask for help, not a weak one, all right? So thank you guys for being here. And this is one thing I don't ever want to see. It says sorry on his name tag. I don't want this to be you, all right? And this is the best thing. I love this quote, right? It's so true. I wish my head would forget what my eyes have seen. But if we build that resilience, if we build that protocol, we can work through that and keep going. All right? So thank you guys very much, and I will see you later.